And we are live. Welcome to the big stream. I am John Groening, and we're trying something a little different. I've been promising on these streams that I'd get my act together, that I would get a camera with some lighting, and I'd work out some of these audio kinks. Now, of course, they might not still be worked out. That's not how it works. But I'm really hoping that you can hear me clearly, that we're going to have a great series of segments on this installment of the big stream. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it, actually, because we're talking about some HBO Max stuff. We're talking about some Sony stuff. And we're going to do some Wonder Woman 1984 talk. I know. The movie comes out on Friday. You already know what you think, right? You already know if you're going to see it. Some people might not, though. I've been wondering, are people going to watch Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max more than they're going to watch Soul on Disney Plus, the new Pixar movie? My guess is a ton of people are going to watch both. And I have a feeling Soul's going to be more... I mean, I could be wrong. It's a superhero movie, Wonder Woman, so it's like, do people like that sort of thing more? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Everything is nebulous to me. But we're going to go through all of that in the second segment. First segment, though, is going to be Sony and the HBO Max deal. I have a new software thing here, so this is super fun. I can do it thing by thing. So I could make it a rolling ticker or whatever, but that seems superfluous, so we're not going to do that. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started. And yeah, I understand some of you not actually know what the HBO Max deal is because you haven't watched a stream from me before. But the main focus of the big stream on this YouTube channel so far has been dissecting and analyzing the HBO Max deal, which is a huge movie industry shakeup. This is the deal that will allow Warner Brothers to show all their theatrical releases in 2021 on HBO Max the same day they go to theaters. So Dune, Matrix 4, Godzilla versus King Kong, whatever it is, those movies are going to be coming out in theaters, internationally, but they'll also be coming to HBO Max same day. So it doesn't even matter if the American rollout of the vaccine is going to be successful and cases are going to go down a ton. Warner Brothers is committing to this. They're committing to HBO Max being a place where you have an alternative to their biggest films of the year. You can watch them same day on their streaming service. And I've done a bunch of other streams on this subject before. Why HBO Max is probably doing this, why Warner Brothers is doing this, why they care so much about getting subscriptions for HBO Max, even though it's cannibalizing the box office. And there's a lot to it. But today we're going to focus on something that I came across. I haven't read this yet, but it's reporting coming from somebody I definitely trust and appreciate film-wise, and that's Chris Evangelista of Slash Film. And he wrote this up just today, how Sony is benefiting from the Warner Brothers HBO Max deal. So I'm curious, is Sony benefiting from the HBO Max deal? Let's read on, because I have some thoughts. I mean, Sony does not have a streaming service. They license their stuff, their content, to other streaming services. And if there was any, streaming outlet that would probably have a decent relationship with Sony, it would probably be, like Hulu and Disney Plus, because Disney and Sony make deals all the time. I'm not sure if, Peacock, it would have a close relationship with Sony. I don't know. But okay, let's see what Chris Evangelista has to say. And by the way, I do want to point out, I don't know if this article is going to get into it, but we do know right now that Into the Spider-Verse is, currently on Netflix, but pretty soon you will not be able to see Sony's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And there's actually, no hint right now where it's going to land. It's kind of got a lot of people, myself included, really curious what's going to happen with that. So, all right, so this is what Chris's article has to say. I'm going to boom this up a bit so you can see it better. I hope you can see it. All right. Warner Brothers made history and a lot of people angry, understatement, when they announced they plan to release their upcoming 2021 theatrical slate directly to HBO Max. This is what we just talked about. While the idea is appealing to those who want to view big new movies from the safety of their own home, cinephiles worry that this might signal the death of the theatrical experience. On top of that, creatives, filmmakers, actors, and beyond are feeling betrayed and annoyed. So Chris doesn't really elaborate here, like why they're being annoyed specifically. This is something that I have talked about on stream a bunch of times. First of all, they weren't told that this was going to happen, so that definitely ruffled a ton of feathers. A lot of people were feeling very betrayed by that. This deal, was going to happen without their knowledge and without their, say so. Yeah, something that I definitely denounce is any corporation that treats their workers like this. Really just makes it, really just puts the screws on them. They're also feeling betrayed because financially this could be a huge hit to a lot of people who depend on residuals. This is a point that Christopher Nolan has made multiple times. But okay, so Chris goes on. Having these titles available to stream could impact box office. The films are still getting theatrical releases the same day they hit HBO Max, which in turn could hurt people financially. Lots of actors and filmmakers get an extra payday depending on how well their film does at the box office. To add insult to injury, many of the people involved with the upcoming 2021 Warner Brothers title say they were never told Warner Brothers was planning to do this. Okay, so I got a little bit ahead of myself there when I said Chris does. Okay, yeah, Chris does go into detail. He does cover this stuff. So sorry, Evangelista. Should have known you would do the thorough reporting we expect from you. Because of all this, it looks like the Warner Brothers decision might be benefiting rival studio Sony. All right, so now we're getting into the crux of this piece. As we previously reported, the big decision by Warner Brothers to release their 2021 slate to HBO Max has angered pretty much everyone in Hollywood, and apparently it's causing some people to take their business elsewhere. Sony CEO Tony Vinciquerra recently told CNBC via The Verge that talent has been calling up Sony with hopes to work with a studio that won't send everything to streaming. Yeah, so I did kind of talk about this the other day. I talked about how if Christopher Nolan was going to be leaving Warner Brothers, because he doesn't have I don't think he has an exclusivity deal with Warner Brothers, but he's clearly a darling with them. He's made all their stuff with them since The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, and all that. If he would go anywhere else, where would he go? And then I threw out a few. I think I forgot to mention Universal. I might have done that. But yeah, I threw a few out there. I do remember mentioning Sony. Sony would make sense. Sony has had great relationships with action directors, with the James Bond franchise in particular. Sam Mendes, of course, has had a really good back and forth with them for the most part, I think. So it would make sense for Nolan, just as an example from this article, to strike up a deal with Sony. And Sony doesn't seem like they're itching to do a streaming service anytime soon. But yeah, maybe we'll talk about that more in a second. So this is a quote, I think, from Vinciquerra. Okay. The real benefit has been the number of incoming calls from talent to us saying, we want to be doing business with you because we know you're a theatrical distributor and producer, said Vinciquerra. This has actually worked very well for us. Now, I don't want to claim Vinciquerra is making this up. This is Chris talking. But the story does kind of have an I have a girlfriend, but you don't know her because she lives in Canada vibe to it. I love Chris Evangelista. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see this being sort of like Sony, maybe roughing up some goodwill, maybe talking, fake it till you make it sort of thing, where it's they're talking about, all of these deals that could be coming through, sparking a conversation or the idea in people's heads. So some producer in Hollywood, for example, right now could be coming across the Slash Film article or, whatever, CNBC and The Verge or whatever, and see oh, Sony's getting calls. Why am I not calling Sony? That's kind of how this industry works. There's a lot of backdoor deal making like that. So yeah, this definitely rings true to me. It rings true to me as a strategy for Vinciquerra. But even if they were getting a ton of calls, it does make sense for him to sort of brag about this openly, so that their investors feel like Sony is viable. So yeah, it says here, still it does make sense. Sony doesn't have a streaming service to their name. And while they have sold some movies to streaming before, like Greyhound, which went to Apple TV+, they're less likely to dump an entire year's worth of theatrical releases on streaming service. At least for now. In the meantime, there are unsubstantiated rumors swirling that some people involved with upcoming Warner Brothers movies are trying to fight back. The biggest rumor at the moment is that Legendary Pictures, that's the Kong versus Godzilla thing, is ready to file a lawsuit with Warner's over the release of Dune. Oh yeah, Dune 2, huh? Again, this is all conjecture, and there's absolutely no confirmation, at least for now. I never really considered this before, this idea that, maybe when you look at Sony's viability and their business model, they are kind of in a privileged position when it comes to leveraging deals. Right now, they're not because they can't make any, big movies and they can't rely on big box office hits. But unlike AT&T, Warner, and everything, Sony is owned by like a tech company for sure. But like it doesn't seem like the box office is like one of their primary motivators or financial motivators. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do get the sense that they're playing the weight game, which is why they haven't jumped into the streaming craze. I think they've had the good sense to know that when they have tried to do streaming things, like they did try to do stuff with like PlayStation, for example, which on paper was not a bad idea. The idea was that you have like a PlayStation sort of like original programming, and it would appeal to PS4 owners at the time. It didn't take off. The only one I can really think of that they made was that one with the guy from District 9. It was like something called Powers. I think it was like Charlotte Copley's show. I didn't watch it. It was like a superhero kind of TV drama thing. But yeah, they tried to do this. It's not like Sony has never dabbled into streaming, but I think they've wisely picked a lane, especially like in lieu of the box office being clearly something that makes them more money, I think. But now, the result of that is it's like an incidental, like pro theatrical model for Sony. They're in a position where they can't, just dump all their movies on the service. What else are they going to do? And Sony, unlike some of these other companies, can actually get away with, releasing internationally and making their millions there. And, once the US gets their act together, they can show these movies. But, if you recall, No Time to Die, that was Sony's big movie of the year. I think it was, on track to be their big film. And it was going to be the latest James Bond movie. It was supposed to come out in the spring. And they delayed it like immediately. Like we're talking like, I think like first or second week in March. The movie was not far away. And they were like, nope, coronavirus, forget that. It's ravaging China. We want this thing to play in China. It's about to ravage the US. They delayed it to November. And then, of course, now it's delayed to next year. I forget where like the final date is on that. And they have, a pretty good incentive to keep doing what they're doing because James Bond is working well for them. Spider-Man is working well for them. They're not doing badly. Even like the Jumanji thing is doing pretty well for them too. I mean, sometimes I like mess up and I think it's Jumanji's like a universal thing. It's not Sony, but and then they also have like that Ghostbusters thing that's going to be coming out. They have a good slate. I'd say that they have a stronger slate, in my opinion, than DC Warner Brothers does at the moment. I'm definitely more excited about Sony projects on the whole compared to Warner Brothers. Because like every time I go through like the 17 films that Warner Brothers has coming to HBO Max, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in Dune. Like I'm kind of interested in Matrix 4. It seems kind of early to really know what that's going to be about. So yeah, all said, I'm definitely not hurting for Sony. I think they are. I'm going to agree with Chris. Big surprise. I think he's right on the money here. But okay, let's move on to our next segment. We're going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. So kind of staying on the Warner Brothers train. I hope I don't come off like I'm a hater of Warner Brothers. I don't think I have been like that against. I've definitely been critical. I've definitely talked about things that I wish they would do differently. But and I just kind of say that I'm not as excited about Warner Brothers projects. But in general, I really like Warner Brothers stuff. I really like their films. Their philosophy of filmmaking, the relationship they have with directors. I think they just have like weird famines where their content is underwhelming to a weird degree. If I can think of one in particular, I just watched Tenet, and I know some people really dig Tenet. I do not understand it at all. Tenet to me is just such a weird misfire. I found it incomprehensible and very flashy with really cool set pieces, but not a film that really stuck out to me. And now, like the other big Warner Brothers film of 2020, Wonder Woman, is finally coming out, and the early reviews were crazy positive for this thing. I was getting pretty excited. I'm not gonna lie. I was like looking at the early reviews and I was like, oh, thank goodness we're gonna end 2020 with like a really good blockbuster movie. Everyone's gonna be able to see it on HBO Max who has it. They're gonna be like, I should say, people are gonna be able to watch it safely. They'll have the choice. It won't be like Tenet where you have to wait months just to see it at home. And I didn't want to see Tenet in the drive-in because it was, my drive-in's not that great. But if I'm going to watch something at the drive-in, it's going to be like New Mutants, which I did see that. or like a classic film that I've already seen like really good high definition before. But usually when I go to the drive-in, like I can barely see what's going on. There are exceptions. I did see Freaky at the drive-in. Freaky at the drive-in was like really great. That was a great drive-in experience for sure. But Wonder Woman 1984, I am going to be seeing this in the luxury of my home. I'm going to be seeing this on a nice big old TV, and I've been looking forward to it. I specifically was really hoping I would be able to watch Soul at the time via screener so that I could see Wonder Woman with family on Christmas Day. Now, look, I'm not letting other people's opinions shape my opinions. It's not my deal. But now I'm starting to feel a little nervous. I'm starting to feel like, did I make the wrong decision? Should I have pushed harder to get Wonder Woman ahead of time and then seen Soul on Christmas Day? I don't know. But whatever. What's done is done. But let's look at some of these reviews. I did kind of notice on Twitter a lot of people that I really respect and trust were trashing this movie, saying it's god awful, and that's disheartening. I hope I disagree. I really do, and I'm not going to name any names, but I might though if their reviews appear here. Some of the people I saw trashing it haven't even written reviews of the film yet, so we won't see what they have to say. But let's see here. There is a critic consensus already, which is interesting. Yeah, there's 178 reviews counted. But this is weird because, like, again, the first slate of the Wonder Woman reviews were like overwhelmingly positive, and now we're in like the second wave, and the second wave seems to be like overwhelmingly mediocre to bad. So I don't know if that's going to keep pushing the tomato meter down, because this consensus looks pretty like positive, right? Great Hero, Wonder Woman 1984 is an epic dose of heart and vibrant escapism that proves there are still unexpected thrills to be found in superhero cinema. This is like the kind of consensus you would see with a film that's like in the like high 80s and 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. I will refresh an understanding of Rotten Tomatoes. I know some people really get this wrong. I do not want to contribute to that. That's 75%. It is not a measure of quality. It just is not. It does not mean that the film is like a 75 out of 100. The way Rotten Tomatoes works, and I'm sure a ton of you already know this, the way it works is that 75% of critics who saw it gave it a favorable rating. That can mean that most people who gave it a favorable rating gave it a really favorable rating, like 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. But there were a lot of people maybe who gave it something kind of like in the middle too. What really helps with Rotten Tomatoes to contextualize everything is the average rating, which I don't think we have an average rating yet. I think it's a little too early, but that's weird because you'd think with like the average rating would come. Oh wait, no, there is an average rating. I'm wrong. Okay, so yeah, so you can see here, this does contextualize things a little bit. 134 rated fresh. Fresh is like a 6 out of 10 or higher. Roughly though, I'd say like, some of my reviews I've done 6 out of 10 on like, for example, the young folks, and it's been counted as rotten. And I've had to like literally email back and forth with Rotten Tomatoes to be like, look, this is fresh. Like, a 6 out of 10, it's like 60% on the tomato meter is considered fresh technically. So, am I getting that wrong though? I could be wrong about that actually. It could be above 60% and I'm just messing up, but I think that's the case. I think it doesn't become rotten until it's below 60. Yeah, I'm not a Rotten Tomatoes expert, clearly. I have a feeling I just spread some fake news to everybody. I am seeing like right here, like the last shift is 63% and that's positive fresh. So whatever. But yeah, like I was saying before, the average rating here is really helpful. So out of 178 ratings, it's 6.7 out of 10. So like, that is below 75. So you would get the impression if you were just looking at the percentage that it's like a 75 out of 100, which no, not really. It's more of like a 6.7 out of 10, which is pretty mediocre. And a lot of these films get like average ratings that are much lower than the percentage score. So just pointing that out. And there is like a top critics. Yeah, top critics is basically the same, 76%. And yeah, the ratio is basically like right in line. So interesting. We'll see the audience score this weekend. But okay, let's see what's going on here. Let's look at the damage. I wonder if we can maybe like break this down to by like when these came out, like when these reviews came out. So, okay, so everything I'm seeing here, these are a lot of positive scores. They're all December 23rd. So interesting. So we aren't looking at the first wave, but these are very, very positive. So maybe this could be an example of John Ernie's Twitter feed dictating his his observation of consensus. It could be that like what I was looking for on Twitter was a bit misleading. Oh, looks like my camera went out. Oh, I'm back. That might actually be the case. Okay, so let's see here. We got a B minus here. I'll say Yolanda Machado for Observer. Yolanda is definitely a great Twitter follow that I like to keep up with her stuff. She says, is Wonder Woman 1984 entertaining? Sure, it's fun, hits all the right superhero marks, and visually, the 1980s something world is a Technicolor throwback to behold. She gave it a 2.5 out of 4. So interesting. Yeah, that's like the Roger Ebert scale out of 4. That's not bad. That's kind of like right in the middle, just barely above average. So that's an interesting rating. We kind of see the same thing here with this 3 out of 5 from Slant Magazine. Here's an interesting one from Peter Travers, ABC News. You'd have to be a Grinch to hate on a blockbuster sequel that's so puppy eager to please. Wow. But despite the femme power of star Gal Gadot and director Patty Jenkins, all the CGI huffing and puffing over 2.5 hours deflates momentum and audience endurance. 2.5 hours? Good Lord. I actually did not know it was that long. 2.5 hours is really, really long. But I guess they're kind of going back, like the Marvel's been getting away with films that long, but still 2.5 hours like for Endgame is like one thing because you have like billions of characters, but Wonder Woman, man, that's a lot of movie. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I'm seeing some more ratings like this. 3 out of 4. It's like it doesn't have the same like jaw-dropping impact of the first Wonder Woman. And okay, so now we're at our first negative review this is from Flickering Myth, 2 out of 5. The story is just a nightmare of terrible decisions. Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't deserve comparisons to The Dark Knight. It deserves to be spoken of in the same breath as Spider-Man 3. Wow, so that's from Robert Koger. Wow, that's pretty harsh, I guess. I don't know. I didn't expect people were going to be coming at this being like this is like The Dark Knight. If there was I think Spider-Man 2 might have been a better comparison here, considering you are talking about like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy and like Wonder Woman's more of a trilogy. I don't think anyone was expecting, like, especially from the trailers, that this was going to be some kind of like, DC movie on like the multi-cross functional power of like Dark Knight. That's a film that's just like a bit more iconic than most. Spider-Man 2 is obviously like a huge favorite for people, but it's a more campy film is what I'm saying. Man, I can't believe like what a short review. Exactly what I needed during this atypical holiday season. This made it to Rotten Tomatoes. No hate on Dan Scully. I don't know who you are, but I'm kind of surprised it's on the front page of Rotten Tomatoes. That's like a very basic excerpt, whatever. Let's look at another negative one. Courtney Small from Cinema Access. I've never heard of Cinema Access. Wonder Woman 1984 is a rather underwhelming affair. Loses sight of the woman behind the inspiring sense of wonder. You see what they did there? They took wonder and they took Wonder Woman and they ascribed other meanings to it. Very clever. Very, thumbs up for me. I give that rating, not a C. I actually give that a 2.5. Let's see. Yeah, Michael Medved had a low rating for it. What else is new? It's interesting. We're seeing a lot of top critics. I'm not seeing a lot of people I know. I'm not saying I know a lot of people, but I don't know. I was kind of expecting to see more, like Katie Walsh. Okay, Katie Walsh from Tribune. 1984 doesn't have the same jaw drop. Oh, wait, we already looked at this. My bad. Yeah, she gave it a 3 out of 4. Clearly, my brain is broken. Yeah, Mark Hughes from Forbes. Right film to end 2020 and start 2021. It's pretty positive. I kind of want to jump, though, and see, like, these are all the December 23rd films because of embargo. You know what? I may just be thinking that the early reviews were like the social media reactions, because it overwhelmingly is like December. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, now I'm seeing the ones from earlier this week, December 21st. Yeah, Katie Rife from AV Club, somebody I definitely look up to as a film critic person. Yeah, it was one of the first to be like, everybody calm down. This isn't as good as you might be thinking. She gave this a C+. It's hard for AV Club. It's hard to get past what seems like a lack of consideration or perhaps concern for what motivates Diana Prince or what fans like about her. This is what I love about Katie Rife's writing. It always gets me to think deeper about the film itself and like the audience reaction to it, because I hadn't really considered that either. My chief criticism of the first Wonder Woman was, like a lot of people, the third act, and how it just really, I think it let the character down. It turned it into a big punching bag scene for a character who seemed to have more going on. And it just feels like ever since that Nomadland scene and like the early goings of Wonder Woman, we really have sort of like lost sight of like, well, who is this character? And I'm very curious about that. I'm very curious about what caused this, because Patty Jenkins is credited with a lot of what really worked in the first Wonder Woman, and she doesn't get the heat as much for the third act because a lot of that was the studio. So yeah, I'm wondering if this is the case, if Katie and the other negative reviews are on the ball, and I'm going to end up watching this and agreeing with them over the ones who like this film. I'm very, very curious what happened here. I'm very curious to find out more information on that, because you would think that with like a lot more goodwill from Patty Jenkins, she, a lot more control for her, she'd be able to put this together. But who knows? I don't think it has anything to do with the pandemic. I think they were basically done with this thing. And DC has a lot of momentum. I think that, since Aquaman was pretty successful and Shazam did really well, it feels like DC has kind of figured out how to enable their directors in a more meaningful way. So that's why I had high hopes for this. I was really thinking this was going to blow people's socks off. And right now it just seems to be sort of like down the middle. Sarah Clements, just recently followed Sarah on Twitter. So I'm just starting to get to know her work as a film critic. I've liked what I've seen so far for sure. Let's see. She worked for Exclaim. I don't know what Exclaim is. I want to see what this website is. Let's take this stuff to the limit. Let's do more. This is the big stream after all. No, this is fun. A fun website. Ads aren't that annoying. Wonder Woman 1984 overcomes its uneven script with pure 80s escapism. Directed by Patty Jenkins. Yeah. So yeah, I've seen a lot of negativity toward Kristen Wiig in this as Cheetah. I've definitely seen her character sort of like pushed as like a terrible antagonist, and I'm very curious if that is like something that is the fault of Kristen Wiig, or if it's the writing, or what have you. So yeah, I can kind of see here, like there were negative reviews on like the 22nd. I think they were maybe getting like overshadowed. Tim Stevens for The Spool, one of the outlets I write for. When the action centers on Godot and Pine, and Godot especially, WW84's inconsistencies and shortcomings feel remarkably easy to overlook. Maybe that's the key, Tim Stevens. Maybe this is a case of like some people just cannot get over the flaws in this, and other people are watching it and the flaws are just like washing over them. I could definitely see that being the case. That happens to me all the time. I've seen so many films where I've been like, how does anybody like this? But then sure enough, people do anyway. Do not underestimate the patience of the film-going audience, or lack thereof. It can really go either way. Christy Lemire, Roger Ebert, Breakfast All Day, she gave it a negative rating pretty early on. Godot remains a winning and winsome figure in Wonder Woman 1984. That's positive. Why is this rotten? She retains her authentic connection with the audience. This sounds great. But the machinery around her has grown larger and unwieldy. So maybe this is making the case that in their attempt to make a sequel, they may try to make something a little bit too crazy. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to pan out. Was it a good decision, I'm wondering, for Wonder Woman to be in 1984? To me, it makes perfect sense. Make a period piece again. That's what worked so well before. But okay. I'm done for now with these Wonder Woman 1984 reviews. I feel like if I keep reading this, I'm going to just like, run out of stuff to talk about. Or like I don't want to get spoiled, anymore. I feel like I'm getting a lot. But thank you for watching the big stream. I appreciate all of you. I know that this is still a growing thing. So if you like this, please like it. And definitely like give me some feedback on what's working about the stream, what's not. Tell people about it, because again, still starting out, I want to be able to make this thing grow. So that's it for me. See y'all.